Run It Studios is the home of the Run Radio podcast and runradio.net, a podcast and station about the relentless, resilient, and innovative types, inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. Welcome back to Run It Studios, Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina Wilcox, and we talk a lot about resilience, mindset, and culture in motion, running things literally and metaphorically. And today, my guest is someone who knows a thing or two about that. Welcome, Kimberly Haley-Coleman. You have this amazing nonprofit that you have come up with. Tell me a little bit about it and what sparked, what ignited the spark.
So Trina, I was actually in a different for-profit corporate world when I started this, and so there are kind of lots of things that came together. So there's a various sparks, and then I have super strong sparks throughout the experience I can share as well. But I had done a lot of travel growing up. I was very fortunate and privileged to do, and when I was working in other countries as part of my career, when I would be there over the weekends, rather than wanting to do touristy things, which I had already done, I wanted to try and serve. I contacted Habitat Humanity, all sorts of organizations saying, can I come and give just for a short period of time? So that's all I have. And I was shocked over and over to find that people just weren't in a position to allow me to come and serve for short term because it's taking somebody off whatever they were going to do, whoever's going to train or supervise me. And so I kind of slowly started organizing my own service by going up to people and communities saying, hey, what can I do? Can I help you with this, that, or the other? And it really grew from that. And then finding other communities that were like-minded and wanted to engage and share in their lives, coming back, coming home, telling people, hey, I did this really fun, joyful thing. And shocked again to find other people go, oh gosh, I would love to do that. The next time you go, can I go with you? And that was when I thought, my gosh, it may not just be me that felt like that's something I needed in terms of a sense of joy and connectedness to humanity, and to feel a little bit like I'm having an impact in the world. I felt like, there's something about, in an office corporate environment, I was missing in terms of being able to uh, experience that human. We're all here for a reason. I can feel it and I'm happy about it. So that's kind of what led to it all.
So, through that, you started formulating these ideas, and Global Aware is the organization that was born from this.
That's right. And it's actually, if you don't mind me, it's globe aware. And so many people make that. We've
Oh,
tried to buy
right.
global aware, but it's always been three syllables, and it's everyone always calls it global. So, but yes, that is how
Globe Aware. Okay, Globe Aware. And then that's even for the website,
all of it. Our podcasts,
globeaware.org.
our YouTube channel, our
Right.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of it. It's all
So,
global aware.
I mean, you're right. When I land on your page, I'm thinking this is something that my husband and I would love to do. In fact, it reminds me of the days where I was sitting in that office, you doing the 9 to 5, thinking there's got to be more. If I take a trip, what can I do? And then, short of, committing your entire life to something that
Right.
it may not be conducive to your lifestyle or whatever your career path is at that time. This looks like someone could thread this through their lifestyle. So tell me about that. So if I'm
Yeah.
sitting here thinking, okay, so I'm going to be out of town this one weekend and
Right.
I would love to do something else, how do I get involved?
That's right. So, and that's really what we exist for, why and how. We're really, our primary volunteers are busy working North Americans who don't have 2.5 months to give to the Peace Corps, and want to serve. So ours, you start on a Sunday, end on a Saturday. They're going to our website, our social media. They're picking out the location and the date they want to go, and they are when they arrive, we pick them up. We've got all of the service plan, the food, our culture and leisure activities. And so we're not expecting that they have special skills or speak the language. These are small, teams. It's just like signing up for a cruise or a summer camp. You're choosing where you want to go. It's tax deductible, roughly 14, $1,500. And we are doing small scale projects. So we're installing concrete floors in the homes of single moms, or assembling and distributing wheelchairs for landmine victims in Cambodia. We are building wattle and daub style homes in Kenya. They were all very different projects. I think a lot of people are familiar with churches that have some kind of mission, whether it might be Uganda, where their church goes back every year to the same location. So we don't have any sort of religious or political affiliation, but we're in those communities pretty much every other week throughout the year. And our coordinators, our staff are there from the local country, but they're bilingual, taking everyone through the process. And of course, we hire local foremen to lead all the projects, because really the local communities are much faster and better at everything. They're the ones who chose the project, how to do it, what materials we're using. And, it's really the volunteer funds that are our only source of paying for all of this. There's no sort of government funds or anyone else that we're getting funds for, which is why volunteers get a tax deduction for participating in our programs if they're Canadian or from the United States. So that's a little bit how we are and what we work. And what we do find is almost everyone that goes on these projects, it really does tend to light a fire, and people will go back to a new location pretty much every year. And we're trying to offer these always over 4th of July, over Thanksgiving, over Memorial Day, days where we know people might already have time off, so that they're not hopefully having to take all their time off if they want to serve. So that's how people go about doing it.
Tell me a little bit about the people that may think, oh, I'm not qualified. I don't have certifications or I have physical limitations, but I
Right.
still have the heart to help.
Yeah.
Speak to those folks.
And those physical restrictions and limitations are important. We are 501c3, but we are not medical professionals. So in a couple of our locations, for example, Ghana or Zimbabwe, there might be places where it's recommended by the CDC, not by us, to take malaria prophylaxis. But we can give what the CDC recommendations are. We cannot tell people to get those medicines. So we will just inform everyone, this is what the CDC says, but we recommend you go to your health provider. Similarly, it's important that, there are only a few that actually have what I would call health related limitations. And one would be, for example, in Peru, anyone with asthma or breathing issues probably wouldn't want to go to Cusco, Peru. It's so high, without talking to their doctor and letting them know the situation. So there are, or if somebody's not able to regulate their own body temperature, and if they have trouble, for example, sweating or not being able to cool down, we do have a lot of tropical locations where we operate. We're very heavy in Southeast Asia, Latin America, all over the African continent. And these are places where there's going to be less access to air conditioning. Now, we do cover medical insurance, and we're close to clinics and hospitals everywhere we go. But, there's no way to eliminate all risk. You can step on a nail anywhere in the world, and already having that tetanus shot in you before you go. Again, it doesn't even matter if you're in the United States. We're not allowed to recommend it, but that we would just point out what the CDC recommendations are on all this. And we do think it's a good idea for anyone who thinks they have any sort of medical condition or limitations, that it's worth discussing. There are other risks beyond
Yeah.
that, but yeah.
And when are these discussed? Like, are you connected with a coordinator or how does this work when you have all these questions and
Yeah.
where you're going and more?
So once somebody's gone on one of our programs, the way it usually starts is someone will call and say, "Hey, I've never traveled before, or I've only been to Europe, or I really want to." And so we'll start that conversation asking, "Well, tell me where you have been. Tell me what you've studied. Have you ever studied any languages? Do you feel any particular connection to a certain culture? Like if you have any sort of Latin or Indian heritage that you're wanting to especially connect with." But for somebody who's never traveled, we wouldn't recommend, for example, if somebody asked our opinion, to not start with India or Cambodia, to have a culture that's a little closer to your own home,
Mhm.
whether that's Costa Rica or Mexico or Guatemala. It tends to be a way to dip your toe into the waters a little bit. And so we go through all that by phone for people who have those questions. And then once they've registered, we have, a packet that explains everything you need to know. And we have a podcast that goes through all that stuff in an audio format. We've got videos that take everybody through it, but it's really designed so that unless you have some kind of um, real limitation, you should be able to show up and not know anything, whether it's a job skill or a language. The idea is our volunteers are learning while we're serving alongside these local community members. So we don't expect that anyone is bringing any specific knowledge in any way to the scenario. So,
Well,
yeah,
let's talk a little bit about your perspective on things, how you run things. This is not something like a quick party planning over the weekend. This is, you've got a lot of moving
right.
parts here. And just before we even hopped on this call, you were doing a million things. So,
Yeah.
how
Yes.
is that for you to bring all this together? What's it been like? How have you had to
Mm.
adapt and evolve?
So, it really depends on the time, right? I mean, when COVID happened, that was a huge, it really was a wrench in everything we do. And we had a program in China at the time. We have not reopened it since COVID, but that was the first program we closed in January of 2020. And so that was a big change. And we tried to do all sorts of online programming, but nothing was the same, obviously, as doing things in person. And strangely, we actually had some locations like Mexico that never closed. Uh, so the kinds of challenges that we're seeing, in 2008, 2009, there was all sorts of uncertainty and people canceling programs based on what was going on economically. And whether it's any sort of administration change, or like in Cuba, how our legal ability to interact with a company or send money, or where people can stay has changed depending on which administration is running things. Um, and then the currency exchange, because it's always on the move. We're collecting in one currency and spending in another. So we have to anticipate a range of what our projects are going to cost. And so there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of challenges. Now, I will say we do not just operate wherever there is extreme need. We don't operate in Darfur, Somalia, Afghanistan, Palestine, despite the fact there may be need there, because we pay liability insurance and we have to be able to cover any sort of risk. So we really have to operate in places where they're very safe. We can't put people high on ladders, operating heavy equipment and machinery, or handling bodily fluids. We're not Doctors Without Borders. So if there's been some major disease outbreak or some kind of disaster, like in Haiti with an earthquake, we are not putting people on heavy equipment, debris moving vehicles. So we are not the appropriate organization to help in those circumstances. So yeah. Anyway, so that's a bit about how, we really are only able to operate in places that there's need, but it's very safe.
How do you choose those? Do people come to you looking for the volunteer load, or do you go out saying, "Hey, I've got people that are ready to help"?
So initially, I would go and meet with communities and go and interview various grassroots roots organizations to see what have they identified as their needs and how do they want to address them? Do they seem bonded as a community where they all agree? Because if we don't have the locals deciding on and choosing how to do this, we know that the projects aren't going to be used and it's not sustainable, and might be something that makes people feel good to build, but then no one's using it. So initially we were on the lookout for that, but now we have a lot of organizations that will come to us in local communities saying, "Hey, can you come and send us volunteers?" So at that point, we go and we run their projects and programs through our own criteria. How willing are they to be able to let us learn a bit about their culture and how they eat and how they sing and how they do things about their daily life? Do they already know the projects they want? Are they safe? Are they culturally interesting and meaningful? Is it going to help a genuinely needy population? Is there something we can finish in a pretty short period of time? So now those organizations come to us and we will evaluate them on that. And they will change, again, whether they're having a Zika outbreak or, a hurricane, something like we will have to change where our program locations are. Now, fortunately, it doesn't have to change all that much, but it absolutely does. And we'll have, we had something unexpected happen a couple of weeks ago. We had a corporate group on our Peru program in Cusco, and which is a bucket list item for anybody going. And to do that, you buy your tickets in advance. They're attached to your passport so that you can't transfer them like an air ticket. And the night before, there was a protest. There was local disagreements over who should be running and benefiting from the trains that go to Machu Picchu, and they shut the trains down. And we've never had that happen in 25 years. And it's a long story. They actually did end up seeing Machu Picchu, but I mean, there are things that happen that we can't anticipate. And outside of a North American structure, there are different expectations of timelines and delivery and productivity. And so we're trying to balance between, hey, making sure we're being productive and making concrete, real solutions, and still not trying to force our ways too much on the local community. It's a sensitive thing.
What's the biggest need for global wear right now?
Well, uh, we have lots of projects and programs, and we'd love to have more and more people know and understand what they're about. And what we have seen, we've had a number of universities that have traveled with us for years and years, but due to recent cutbacks financially that are impacting a whole lot of universities, a lot of them have postponed their programs till next year. So our biggest need is always more volunteers, you know
Okay.
and and we have a fair number of corporate groups that go on our programs because so many employers offer contribution matching
Oh,
to
wow.
nonprofits. So in many cases somebody can pay $600 for their program, which is tax deduction for them when they write it to us, and their employer will pay the rest, or they'll give them volunteer paid days off, or people will use donor advised funds, or um, family foundations. There are all sorts of vehicles now for funding this kind of charitable involvement. Um, and I would say volunteers. We always need more volunteers.
All right. And where people can go to get more information or listen to more information?
We're everywhere you're going to look, really, all social media. I'd say Facebook, which says something about our demographic on who our standard volunteers is. Not TikTok is not our number one. It's definitely Facebook. And our podcasts and our YouTube channels, I mean, they're hopefully providing people really useful information that are just wanting to travel. If you're going to Cuba, you've got videos showing you this is how you fill out your tourist card. If you're going to Zimbabwe, this is how you get your Kazaa visa. We try and give little clips like this is what the bathrooms look like in Thailand. This is, so we've got information in every way we can think of. Our podcast has interviews with volunteers and with our coordinators. We've got daily diaries of people taking you through what's it like to be in the Philippines. So if you search Globe Aware, you'll find us in every direction you look. LinkedIn, everywhere.
All right. Well, we will be looking. Thank you so much for sharing and doing what you're doing. It's great. Appreciate it.
Oh, Tina, thank you so much for having us, guys. We really do appreciate it.
No problem. You can learn more at runitstudios.com. We'll see you next time.